Welcome back to Random Rod Shop, folks. I told you in the last video we were going to do the C10 Shuffle for a couple of weeks. So my son was out yesterday and we got the front end out from under my dad's 80 Chevrolet pickup, and it's a Big 10, so it's got the 1.25-inch brakes and heavy-duty suspension, 12-bolt rear end. We're going to end up putting the whole suspension under here. Got the front end out from under the 63, and let me take the camera down and I'll kind of give you a rundown of the 63. We'll we'll see what we got going. So I got this truck and somebody had already started working on the body on it. It's actually a pretty straight body. It's set in the pasture, so it's got its fair share of rust, but in my mind it's a Chevy. I know how to work on these things. So the A-pillars, right, the bottom of the A-pillars, and this rocker and this cab corner. The bed had been setting upside down, so obviously it's got a boo-boo right there. The good thing, I guess, about this one is I'm not going to put a short narrow. I'm not going to put a step side on it. I've got the early on in the channel, I showed you the short wide bed sides I've got for this. They need a little bit of work, but this is going to be a short wide bed. Probably going to end up putting this bed on the 57. They're the same beds, so I've got a good fender that's off of a long wheelbase step side that doesn't have the cutouts, so I believe I've got a set of fenders that are in good shape. And it had the wood bed in it. This, obviously this fender's got the same problem, but I think I got a good set of fenders. This side's in a lot better shape. Still got the A-pillar and the floorboard, but all in all, and I've got all the stuff for it. This was nice because I've got a couple of parts vehicles for it. Rocker's not in bad shape on it. It's an original short bed pickup. The VIN number on the frame matches the VIN number on the pickup, which is inside the A-pillar right there. So when I do this conversion, generally I just I make my own brackets. So I know they make Captain Fab and CCP, I forget which, CPP I think, makes adapter plates so you can put the square body power steering pump on the 63 to 66 frame. Let me go show you how I normally do it. So here's my dad's pickup, right? Like I said, it was a Big 10, long wheelbase. Got this, you can see, got the front end out. Well, you saw it up there, I guess. So what I do is I make a template of where the power steering is relative to the front suspension, and I do the same thing to the idler arm over there. I'm gonna put the camera up on the tripod and kind of show you how I do this. There's no magic, but I need to get it up here and get it made. And I've already cut a hole out because there's a bump out here for the brake line. I've got this little hammer, this little ball peen, and that seems to make it pretty nice. You might wonder why I marked them. Well, it's sort of a double check. When I take this off, after I poke a hole in it with the hammer, when I take it off, I can look at the pencil marks and make sure that I didn't screw up. All right, I'm gonna take this cardboard to the other side and line up my holes, and then we're gonna punch out where that idler arm goes. All right, let's see if we can line this up and get this idler arm position. All right. Well, I think that's it. Probably ought to mark those two, shouldn't I? All right. Let's go see how it fits on the 63. All right, guys. Sorry about the wind noise, but we're going to be outside all day today. So I've got this cardboard. You know, you guys saw me just make this thing. I've got it lined up. It lines up with, you know, the two back holes, and I've done my best to get these holes lined up. And I bought one of those Amazon, you know, adapter plates. Not that I planned on using it, but the holes are in the right place for the steering box, so it'll serve as a good drill jig. I've lined these holes up with the holes in the cardboard that correspond to where the steering box is on the C10. So let me get my punches, and I'll punch a hole. You know, the transfer punches. Get a dot, then we'll drill a hole in these things, and we'll see what we can do. It looks like that the CPP, the difference between the Captain Fab and the CPP is Captain Fab pretty much puts it back where GM put it. And I suspect the reason he did that's the same reason I want it back there, is that's the way it was designed. CPP moves it down and changes the angle so that it will be more in line with the steering shaft if you're using the factory steering shaft. I'd rather fight this problem and have it where it's supposed to go. That's just me. I mean, there's been thousands of these things sold, so they obviously work, but my preference is just put it back where GM said, you know, where GM designed it. So let me get the transfer punch, let me punch this out, and let's see if we can get some holes in this thing. And on the CPP one, this is threaded. That's the other thing. I don't like the idea of drilling out that bottom hole in that steering box, because I like the idea of being able to go to Napa or something and get a new steering box if I have to. like that's gonna work. Let me go get the drill. And let me drill these holes in this thing, and let's get this put to bed. All right, I got the holes drilled in. I'm gonna just take a reamer and ream this one out. The 3 bolts that come up from the bottom, the bolts that came out of my dad's pickup, those things are a 1/2 inch, and they fit in the bottom of this. So I don't know if someone's drilled them out. I thought these were going to be smaller, but oh well. The way I've got the tractor hooked up, I'm going to bring the tractor up and I'm going to raise the front end up to it, I think. We'll see how that works. I'm going to get a saw and I'm going to cut this steering shaft off, because I'm pretty sure the steering box is going to get in the way of this rag joint right here. So let me go whack this off, and then we'll see if we can get this thing hooked up. right, we got it in there. We got to get the steering box. Need to measure the spacers so we could space it out. The steering box, I don't know, you see that hump right there? On the square body, there's actually a hump cut it, you know, there's a divot in the frame right there, so you got to space the steering box out so that a bump on that steering box, you know, has a place to go. I may end up just using the you know, the adapter plate I got. we'll cut what we don't need, and that'll set the spacing, I believe. If not, we'll fix it. I wanted to point out, see these brackets? They go, let's see, get the right one. They go right here. And I believe that was only on the heavy-duty half-tons. I haven't seen them on the regular ones, so we'll get those put back in. We gotta, that hole's gonna align. We got to get a Dremel after this hole. And obviously we have to drill out this top hole once we get it all set in there. Yeah, that hole's gonna align. We need to open up that hole right there. So, let me, I forgot to cut the shaft off. Let me cut that shaft off, and let's see if we can get the steering box on there. Thought I'd show you kind of how much we're talking about here in terms of wallowing this out. We got about a half a hole there, so need to wallow this out up this way, and I'm not using anything fancy. Just got a cutter on the end of a drill. I think that'll work. I got the nuts on the bottom so it wouldn't come apart when I put it together. So I pull the nuts off of this thing and squirt some paint on the bracket, and we'll get this bracket in there. Alright folks, front suspension is bolted in. All the bolts are in, so you've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, let's see. You got 7 bolts here, you got 7 bolts here. Everything's tightened down. In the end, all I had to do was, you know, open up a hole about a half a bolt for the front suspension on the steering column. That actually worked really well. I drilled all the holes based on the pattern that I took off of my dad's square body. So here's the, let's see here. Yeah, there we go. So this is the 2 bolts at the top of the suspension. These are the 2 at the bottom. These are the 4 steering bolts. I then took this to the other side and got the idler arm. So it all actually worked. The steering box bolted on, the idler arm bolted on, no shenanigans, no level on the tie rods or anything like that. The pattern worked well. Now, the learning on this, let me get the camera down here. So what do you think? The steering box is about 1/4 of an inch that way, and we didn't have to drill out the steering box. And let me show you from the side. That steering box is pretty close to being aligned with the steering shaft. I'm trying to get it down there. It's pretty close. So the upshot is, I think the CPP kit is probably easier to install because it's basically set up to use a couple of the existing bolts. You know, the bolt holes, so you can align the plate. In this situation, none of the bolts align, right? Let's see here. Yeah, none of the bolts aligned with the plate that I have to match these holes. Now I suspect the Captain Fab plate would actually align with one of the holes and allow you to drill these. But this works. And now that you've got the pattern, it's not a big deal to make that plate if you want to make the plate. In my case, it was like 20 bucks off of Amazon for the CPP clone, right? And the idea being, I just needed the pattern for the steering box, and it seemed like to me that was, it may have been 23, I don't know what it was, but that was like money well spent. Put it in where I want it, and they've already got the steering box holes and the shims on there, so that seems like a pretty good compromise between the two approaches. I definitely like the steering box, where GM wanted it. The last thing, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the 63 to 66, and I should know on the 67. I think the 67's like this too. But this is the motor mount plate for the chair for the square body. And it sets in here. Obviously it lines up with the bolt holes in the cross member because that's what it came off of. However, that chair doesn't sit down there. I have to go measure the frame rail. I didn't realize the square body was taller, but it would appear it is. I need to go measure that just to be sure. So that's the chair on the square body. Here's the chairs you need for a V8 in one of these trucks. The 6-cylinder looks a lot like that, but if I remember right, the 6-cylinder uses this hole up here, and it's a different mount. So the V8 mounts for these trucks actually are specific. All right, folks. Well, I think we're going to call this one a video. I'm going to continue working on this thing. My son's supposed to be out again next weekend, and we're going to try to do the motor swap. I wanted to get this done so we can just drop that 350 in here. Oh, one more thing on these trucks. I've had a number of these trucks, and back in the day, obviously people wanted to put V8s in them or put automatics in them, and they all came with 3-speed on the column or granny 4-speeds. That cutout you see right there, that's the transmission cross member for the manual trans. I think it was for the 3-speeds. I definitely know that's for the 4-speed transmissions. But invariably, I think I've got 4 or 5 of these old trucks out in the pasture, and every one of them's cut out like that because that actually aligns right at the end of the engine, right? Because that's where the transmission mounts were on these trucks. They weren't at the tail shaft; they were right at the bell housing. So, if you guys do this, take the stinking mounts out. You can see these were whacked with Sawzall or something along the way, but yeah, that's a pain in the butt. I get this up the shop. We're going to take a torch. We're going to get the rivets out, but that's a pain in the butt. You get crawling underneath there. It is amazing how many ways you can get jabbed by those stinking protrusions. So if you've got a truck and it's got them in there, take them out. If you want to cut one out, take the whole damn thing out. All right. I think I'm repeating myself here, but I think that's where we're going to wrap this one up. If you subscribed, I appreciate it. I looked this morning, we're at like 990 subscribers, so we're getting close. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe, make a comment, leave a like, and until next time, I'm Random at Random Rod Shop, and we're out of here.